Welcome back, everyone. And yes, once again, we are live. And you have joined me, Dr. Kate Bartram Brown, interviewing amazing people that I know. And some of you that follow these podcasts and interviews may recognize we have the lovely Aleks on again. Yay! Welcome, Aleks.
Hi, everyone. It's always good to be back. Always happy to share astrology.
I know. It's like, it's so helpful, and especially because we learn so much about Hermetics through you as well, and it's just so magical. But I was wondering, we're coming up to an eclipse, and lots of people have mixed reactions to eclipse. But I wondered if you could explain to those out there that perhaps don't know anything about astrology or eclipses. What is an eclipse? I mean, why do people get a bit panicked?
Absolutely. Well, when we wake up every morning, we're used to seeing the sun in the sky. I know in the UK maybe not so much, but sometimes here in Toronto, same thing. But we're used to seeing the sun in the sky, and at night, we are used to seeing the moon cycles, and so an eclipse is either the blocking of the light of either the sun or the moon, right? And so on May 26th, we have a lunar eclipse coming up. And a lunar eclipse actually happens when the sun's shadow is actually cast over the moon while it's in the nighttime sky, right? Depending on where you are in the world. For some people, this eclipse will be visible, and for others, not so much. And so, to see a shadow or to watch the moon disappear in the middle of the night, because the moon is our light in the darkness, right? And so it can seem like a little bit of a creepy thing, and not only is the moon our light in the darkness, the moon is actually symbolic of our emotions in the subconscious. And so approximately every 5 months and 3 weeks, the moon actually has an eclipse, and it's either preceded by or followed by a solar eclipse. And so we always have at least 2 together. Sometimes we have 3 eclipses sandwiched together, but in this case, it's only 2. So we start with the lunar eclipse, and then in 2 weeks, we're going to follow up with a solar eclipse. But this is actually a regular event. Like I mentioned, it happens every 5 months and 3 weeks. And so it's something that we do see. And because it doesn't occur very frequently, it does have, strong impact on our consciousness.
Yes, so that's interesting. You talk about an eclipse blocking the light. So how does that work in our everyday life, and in particular this eclipse? How will it show up?
Well, so here's the thing. In the Wiccan tradition, the moon is the mirror, and it reflects the light into the subconscious. So, for example, whenever it's a full moon, we know that we get heightened emotion. Now here's a little secret. A lunar eclipse always happens on a full moon, right? And so not only do we have that heightened emotion of the full moon, right? The most light reflecting into the subconscious, and yet at the same time, there comes something that slowly passes over it and blocks the light. And so the general effect of a lunar eclipse is said to actually open the doors into the subconscious and to let things out that have been deeply hidden. And so it's kind of likened to pulling out skeletons out of the closet that you didn't even necessarily know were there. Right. And so lunar eclipses can absolutely be a time of heightened emotion, but they can also be very revelatory in nature, especially if introspection is not really your forte. As that door is opened and that little skeleton pops its head out and says hello, it's like, I didn't realize I'm feeling this way. lunar eclipses deal with our internal nature, and they deal with what is going on inside of us. And that's why they're said to be revelatory, because they actually open the door so that the things we didn't realize were going on under the surface can show themselves, so that they can be resolved. And the cool part is that we get 5 months and 3 weeks, for the most part, to resolve it before the next eclipse. In some cases, for example, let's say we had a third eclipse, sometimes you only get a month. Right? You might do lunar, solar, lunar. So you get until the next eclipse. So for the most part, that means that you have basically almost 6 months, to work with what you feel is coming up in that lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, that we'll talk about next time.
Oh my goodness, that's so amazing. So what have we got coming up now then? Can you explain which one it is and why and a bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start by giving you some of the technical details, because I think people want to know when it's coming, right? Yeah. So it's May 26th, and depending on where you are in the world, it's of course going to start at different times. So I'm just going to give the universal time. So it's going to start at 7:47 a.m. universal time, and it's going to last about 2 hours. So for those of you who are on the East Coast here, Eastern time, it starts at 2:47 a.m. If you're in the UK, it's going to start at 7:47 a.m. And so it's visible finally in North America. It will only be visible as a partial eclipse, even though it is a total eclipse. It will be visible in South America, and it will be visible in Asia. And so I'm sorry, UK, you're not going to see it. I'm sorry. But to be honest with you, even though it's a total lunar eclipse, the visibility maps have the totality of the eclipse mostly occurring over the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, I know, because whenever there's an eclipse, I always remember from when I was little, it must have happened at school. I don't know, everybody bought their sunglasses and everybody was out watching it, it was a big thing. So it always makes me laugh when I hear an eclipse, because it reminds me of that. And I think, oh, I should go out. I should be, watching it or doing something,
Well, with the lunar eclipse, you don't even need sunglasses. That's okay. It's the solar eclipse that you have to be careful of. And sunglasses actually aren't even good enough. Never stare. Well, if it's a lunar eclipse, it's okay, but never stare a solar eclipse directly.
I think it was such bad, this, I'm talking, quite some time ago, like that, more than I care to share on here, over like, years ago, when they were dragging you out of school and, kind of like looking at,
Oh yeah. Or there was a project that I had to do when I was in school, and you took a shoebox and you poked a hole in it, and then you had like the photo development paper, so that you could like actually watch the eclipse through this pinhole in a box.
But we're not going to be doing that with lunar eclipses. But if we've got a boat out in the Pacific Ocean, then we might get a glimpse.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you're saying it's on the 26th, does it affect us before and after as well?
Absolutely. So in the Wiccan tradition, because an eclipse coincides with the full moon, we start to feel the energy 3 days before, and it continues 3 days after. Right. And that is the intensity of it. Now, in terms of what's going on internally and the healing and the resolving, like I mentioned, that becomes more and more subtle as until you approach the next eclipse, but you have that opportunity of time. And so, I wanted to make sure I talked about the eclipse before we got into its energy. And so 2 days from now, we're going to start to enter that period of starting to feel the energy build. Right now, this particular eclipse, it's a total eclipse in Sagittarius, right? And it also coincides with something called World Invocation Day. And so this this actually comes from esoteric astrology. And so I wanted to share a little bit about the esoteric perspective about this eclipse.
Yes, please.
So World Invocation Day happens every year, and it happens at the peak of the Sagittarius full moon, or in this case, the Sagittarius total eclipse in Sagittarius, lunar eclipse. And World Invocation Day, Alice Bailey actually talks about this particular full moon or eclipse being a time when the Christ returns to visit the earth. And so it is actually a day of harmony, unity, and remembering and loving the humanity of others. And so it's actually a beautiful day where the Christos energies are heightened, and it opens up that opportunity for deeper love, deeper acceptance, stronger relationships, right? And the reason being is twofold, actually. So for those of you who don't know, according to Alice Bailey, science says a little bit differently, but according to Alice Bailey, the great central sun, which is the center of the universe, is actually located towards the direction of the Sagittarius constellation. And so whenever we arrive at the Sagittarius full moon, we have the sun, the moon, and the earth all lined up in the direction of the great central sun, right? And the great central sun is where we all came from. This is the essence of our humanity, so to speak. It's where we have coexisted for millions and billions of years, right? And it actually contains the blueprints to what's called Shambhala. That, you know, that time, and Alice Bailey speaks a lot of the link between Shambhala and astrology. And so whenever we come to this particular full moon, and yes, this time it will be an eclipse, we also have that ability to really tune in and to listen to what our piece is in, you know, the attaining of world peace, right? And how we can do that through what Alice Bailey calls right human relationships. And so one of the big themes of this particular eclipse, yes, of course, is remembering the humanity of others, and through it, healing relationships. And so it's actually a really beautiful energy. And there's a particular prayer that Alice Bailey channeled through Dwal Kul, and it's called the Great Invocation. And actually, Davina, do you mind if I read it?
Because it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites. I would love that.
Yeah, you know, and for those of you who've never heard it before, you know, really, I really encourage you to just kind of tune into the words here. And so it's titled The Great Invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
Isn't that amazing?
It's a beautiful poem, and on World Invocation Day, there are people who gather together, maybe not so much in COVID times, but there are people who gather together or in their own private ceremony, you know, recite this prayer and you know, and do their own little ceremony to welcome the Christos energies.
Isn't that gorgeous? And this talk, you know, of the point of light returning to earth and Christ returning to earth. I mean, that you know, to me in these times seems like we just need it, we just need that right now.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look at last year and this year, there's been a lot of dehumanization.
Yeah.
Right. And we can say that in many spheres, right? Of course, what comes to mind immediately is people who are pro and anti-mask. Right. Regular society and what, oh my gosh, what are they called? I lost my brain here. The conspiracy theorists, right? And and how we have come to disagree over opinions, right? And how we've started labeling people by their opinions and mocking them or shaming them, for what they do or don't believe, right? And as we do that, we actually dehumanize them. I had a really cool experience. I believe, it was yesterday. I put up a post on Facebook, asking people about their experience in the mystery school and to tell me their story, right? And it was actually the most humbling thing, because people that I had known for years, I actually got to hear their story. These are people that, I knew, right? But in sharing their experience, in sharing their story, it automatically triggered the recognition of, this is another human being, right? This is a divine being, right? And their experiences actually brought them more alive to me. They were more than a personality. They were more than a person.
Yeah, I've been feeling that myself, for those of you out there that have seen, a lot of the mystery school students and teachers have all been standing up, for their right to practice and for their right to, not just for them to practice, but for all spiritual practices to go ahead and not be mocked and not be ashamed or not be cancelled or whatever it is. And in doing that, it's brought this amazing unity and this amazing power of actually getting to see people, to feel them, to know them. And I hope it continues. I want to see it all of the time, because we're so used to, keyboard warriors, kind of just like, snippets of our perfect life, snippets of this, but to really get to know someone and to have that connection is just so powerful.
Absolutely. And given that we have spent a lot of, last year and this year isolated, that disconnect actually makes people seem unreal, makes them seem like an illusion, and it actually makes it easier to hate, to spew negative emotions and that kind of thing. And here we have a really great reminder with this particular lunar eclipse that the people in front of us are as equally human as we are. Right? That they love, that they have desires, that they get hurt like we do. Right? And when we can recognize these things and we can generate greater empathy and greater compassion, that's when we really have the ability to bring forth Shambhala. Without that recognition of the humanity of all, we can't do it.
So true. It's so true. So this, for those of the people out there that perhaps, aren't studying metaphysics or astrology, or perhaps they don't have a spiritual practice, when we say the Christ returning to earth, it can sound a little bit,
spooky.
Yeah, to them, but we have a different understanding of it. Could you perhaps, share that?
Absolutely. So, first of all, the word Christ itself is a word meaning soul. So people think of Jesus Christ, but he was actually Jesus the Christ. Christ is actually a title, and so for a brief period in time, There was someone who existed on this planet who was a physical representative of the concept of soul and love. He wasn't the only one. Many other religions have spoken of this. So for example, in other countries, the word Christ sometimes is replaced with Lord Maitreya, right? And is replaced with other names, right? You know, all of these beings, sometimes the Bodhisattva, right? All of these beings symbolizing the pure love and compassion that we need to have for each other as humanity, symbolizing that absolute love of God, right? So when we think, you know, this particular full moon and eclipse is all about embodying and anchoring what's called the Agave, the love of God. You know, the love of God that allows all of us to exist without judgment. You know, and so it is not just Jesus the Christ that we are referring to, but rather the force that he helped anchor at a particular point in time. That force being, you know, the ultimate love.
My goodness, don't we need that right now? Don't we just need that right now for everybody? You know, wherever we come from, whatever our beliefs, you know, whatever our practices, that is going to be so welcome. So how could this show up in our daily life then? What can we be looking out for us to, or to you know, for us to actually welcome that into our lives? So we could do the Great Invocation.
You can do the Great Invocation, you know, but there's so many things that you could do, even just lighting a candle and saying your own personal prayers. You know, that's a beautiful way to connect to that energy. Also, if you want to bring some roses into your home, you know, roses, of course, are symbolic of love, right? And are also tied into the energy of Gemini, which is also one of the driving forces of, you know, of this eclipse, even though it is technically in Sagittarius. The two always function together, right? The polar opposites exist as one spectrum. And so bringing roses into your home. But another way to work with this moving forward, you know, is to start asking yourself about your relationships, right? Are you actually recognizing that the people that you connect with have feelings, that they have an intelligence behind them, that they have a heart, you know, or are you only seeing the differences? Right. And so one of the goals with this particular eclipse is to actually restore unity and harmony in your relationships by moving closer together. You know, and how you move closer together is to actually start recognizing the similarities between yourself and all the people that you're engaged with, you know, whether it's people who are part of your social circle or family or people that you love, even if it's just people you connect with daily, you know, through work or that kind of thing, right? And so as you start paying attention to the similarities between yourself and others, and, you know, and remembering that everyone, just like us, you know, like you and I, everyone has a heart, everyone has feelings, everyone has skeletons in the closet, everyone has strengths, everyone has their weaknesses, their pain points. Right. And as we can recognize that, we can actually create better, stronger relationships. And so that's really the goal for the next 5 months and 3 weeks.
I love that. And it reminds me of a story that Founder Goodney told me once about him and the Dalai Lama having a debate about you know, a subject, and they were disagreeing on something but debating it, you know, and and then the Dalai Lama turned around and said, now let's talk about things that bring us that unite us. Now let's, you know, talk about things that unite us, and finding that common ground is just so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. You know, of course we have this energy of Sagittarius, but we also have the energy of Gemini in the background here, right? You know, the sun will be in Gemini. And Gemini is the zodiac sign that governs over the human experience. and I know this is something I got to mention to you recently, Davina, Kate, but Gemini rules over the hands.
Yeah.
Right. And how do we greet each other? By the hands. How do we serve each other? With the hands. Right. And so Gemini and its relationship in this particular energy is all about the unity and the service that we can render unto each other as fellow human beings. And with that unity and with that service, that is how the better relationships are created, as symbolized by the twins.
So cool. So cool.
And so we may have pain points come up around this. Maybe we don't feel understood with this eclipse, right? Or maybe we come to the painful recognition that we don't understand others, or that maybe we need to practice more empathy and compassion, right? Whatever it is, it's okay. You have a chance to work on it, right? You have a chance to heal. And so I definitely encourage everyone to take advantage of this energy, and like I said, that night or morning, depending on where you are, if you want to read that great invocation, or if you want to have a bath with rose petals, or put things on your altar that to you symbolize that love and compassion to help anchor that energy for yourself. If you want to anoint yourself with oils, rose is great, lavender is great. Those are two that will help bring and anchor that energy in. There's no particular one way to celebrate.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to be doing it all. Just, I think everything you mentioned there are things that I absolutely love to do. So I think I'm going to be doing it all. And also, it's my birthday the day after. So I shall be lavishing myself with roses and oils and what have you. So, and I shall be basking in that energy on my birthday. So that's kind of cool.
Birthday prep.
Oh, lovely. Now we're just coming to the end of our time. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with before we say goodbye? I mean, I love every single, you've given us so much, but is there anything we've missed?
Well, don't forget that coming up June 10th, we have a solar eclipse coming up. And I know that we are going to talk about that. Because a solar eclipse is about what's happening in our external world. And so here we are dealing with our internal world and how it affects our relationships. And I will share a little bit more next time, because the next solar eclipse is about our relationship with the divine, with the hierarchy of light.
We shall be tuned in and we shall be ready. And hopefully we might be able to report back. Some of you that have listened to this, maybe you can report back and let us know how you did working with this, these energies and what you experienced. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, for sure. Share your experiences with astrology, because none of us relate to the energy the same way. Right? We are all individuals. And so it's always wonderful to hear your experiences, how you've healed, how it's revealed things, how you've learned things, because that's what astrology is really about. It's actually a process of clarity and growth.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aleks. Thank you once again for sharing your time, sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and your passion, because we're all benefiting from it, and it's amazing. And if you want to work with Aleks directly, please contact her. I'm going to put her email address, her website in the comments. And I highly recommend getting readings. Her birth chart readings and things like that are amazing. So please do that. And, if you're in the local Toronto area, her healing sessions, again, are amazing. So, and if you ever get to do any of the classes, book in. They hardly ever happen. So book in. Thank you so much. And we shall see you all again very soon. Thank you, Aleks.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.